getting the information that you need for this. Also, we will have lots of opportunity for you to ask questions, and you can do that in a couple of ways. One of them is to click on the little yellow hand icon that is on your control panel there, and when you put your hand up, we'll spot that. We'll open up your microphone, and you can ask your question. Or if you're of the shy variety, you may just want to send in a question via the question box. Just type it in there, and I will break in at an appropriate moment and ask Brenda the question. So feel free to ask whatever question you've got, make comments, get anything you need for clarification, because coming up this fall is the first assessment center, and Brenda will tell us all about that. So right now, without any further ado, let me bring in Brenda Pichette to get this underway. Hi, Brenda.
Hi, Drew. Thank you so much. Thank you, everyone, for participating in this webinar today. We're pretty excited about the program, and I want to share with you a little bit of history, how we've got to where we are right now, and what's ahead of us. So just a little bit of background on myself. I've been involved with IAP2 Canada for many years now, and I am on my second term sitting on the IAP2 Canada board. So I've been around the organization for a while and got very involved in the certification program. I chair the Canadian Task Force, and we started in January, and I also have been a member of the IAP2 USA Task Force, and that task force has been meeting since November of 2013. We're really pleased that we'll host an assessment center here in Canada this fall, as Drew mentioned. The U.S. team hosted a pilot for their program at the 2015 North American Conference in September of last year, and based on many lessons learned from that pilot, we have done some refining of the program. As I said, the purpose of this webinar is to tell you about the certification program and how you can apply for certification. I'd like to start with just a bit of background on the work that went around this program. It was with the blessings of IAP2 Federation and help from South Africa, us here in Canada, that IAP2 USA developed the program. To accomplish that work, the IAP2 USA Board of Directors convened a task force to help them with recommendations for the program. The task force goal, the USA task force goal, was to create a professional certification program for IAP2 that could serve as a template for other affiliates around the world. And indeed, we're the first affiliate here in Canada who has stepped forward and said, okay, we want to take this program. I want to honor that USA task force and all the hard work that they've done, because there has been an amazing amount of work done. The US task force met twice a month since November 2013. And we had 2 face-to-face meetings in that time. And I just want to let you know who those people were. We had Deborah Doerr from Scottsdale, Arizona, Tina Geselbrecht from Austin, Texas, Cassie Hempel from Montana, Hannah Litzenberg from Seattle. Wendy Lowe chaired this unruly group, and she is in Colorado at this point. Then myself, we had Ken Smith from Southern Africa, and we were staffed by Amelia Shaw and Jennifer Armstrong. So yahoo to the American team who put this all together. You all received an email with this announcement, so you know that we're moving ahead. We opened applications for the program June 24th, and those applications will close on August 4th. So make note of that. That's just 2 weeks from Thursday. We have yet to determine where we will host the final assessment center. In 2015, that U.S. team conducted that pilot for the certification program. It was the day after the conference in Portland, and we were lucky enough to have 3 brave souls attend the pilot, and we were really pleased that they were very highly qualified P2 professionals. And all 3 indeed were successful and were awarded the Master Certification level MCP. We learned a lot during and leading up to that pilot, and I participated on the U.S. team. And, you know, from word go, we knew that we wanted to bring the program to Canada. So the Canada Task Force convened in January 2016, and our task was to take that U.S. program and make sure it would work for us in the Canadian context. We found that the program really required only some minor tweaking. One of the things that was, most important to us was that we needed to include qualifications and competencies around our commitment to working with our Indigenous peoples. So we've added that in. The folks who agreed to help me here in Canada are Jan Bloomfield, Gay Robertson, Nikki Anderson, Natalie Eno, Chantel Barton. And Stephanie Roy McCallum was helping us for a little bit, but her schedule got way too busy and she had to step away from the group. So yahoo to folks who step up and do this kind of volunteer work. It's wonderful. So what is, in a word, certified, certificate, certification? What we have found over the last number of years is the people were taking the IAP2 certificate program and saying, I am certified by IAP2. We know now that the certificate program, we're now calling it Foundations, it's not the same as being certified. Having sat through those 5 days does indeed not certify you. You receive a certificate of completion. There has been no formal assessment to confirm that participants have the ability and knowledge and skills covered in that training. We have, the training, we have 5 intensive days, but we are actually never tested. Certificate program cannot cover the Foundations, now the Foundations program, cannot cover all the essential competencies in one short week. So fundamentally, certification requires successful completion of a formal assessment program to confirm an individual's knowledge and skills. Certification is a credential that is bestowed on an individual who can demonstrate that they have the essential competencies necessary for a profession. Often requires completion of specified courses, passing an exam, an assessment by an independent panel. Certification process for IAP2 will employ all of these. Certification is not accreditation or licensing. Those processes are something different. So this presentation is designed to tell you about the program and how to apply. First, there are 2 levels of certification. We have the Certified Public Participation Professional, CP3, and the Master Certified Public Participation Professional, MCP3. And we're going to have a 3-step assessment process. Step 1, application and portfolio. Step 2, case study response. And Step 3, assessment center. So I'm going to be going through all of these in more detail for you. This process is about assessing people's skills against 5 core competencies. The core competencies were developed based on member input. We had 2 member engagement processes where we conducted hundreds of pieces of information from members all around the world, and the members told us about the knowledge, skills, and competencies that are essential to be effective in this profession. So we're really, really pleased that, and really any assessment center should be based on, any assessment process should be based on input from members, and I think we did a really good job on that. So the 5 core competencies are listed here. P2 process and planning, and these are the skills needed to design and conduct a P2 program. P2 event planning and implementation, and these are the skills needed to design and implement a specific event within an overall P2 program. We're looking at appropriate use of P2 tools and techniques, and these are the skills to choose and use tools and techniques that are well suited to an event's objectives. We looked at and found a whole list of P2 communication skills. These are the skills needed to effectively communicate in support of your P2 endeavors. And then, of course, the P2 people skills. And these are the people skills that we need, it's needed by professionals in our field. So the three-step certification process. Let me flush out each of the 3 steps for you. Professional certification programs typically rely on a process of independently assessing candidates. Once we defined the core competencies, the task force focused its attention on developing a process for assessing candidates to see if we could independently verify that they have the essential skills. So again, the 3-step process: the application, the case study, and the participation in the assessment center. The application is designed to allow candidates to tell us about what you've done in the past. So I think some of you probably have already had a look at that. Drew had it posted up as on our website, so you can see how detailed the application is, and we're looking at, you know, what you've done in the past. We've got project descriptions for you, so very detailed application. The case study response is designed to allow candidates to provide evidence that they can perform as might be expected in a hypothetical scenario. And then the assessment center is designed to allow assessors to observe candidates looking for evidence of a few things that we didn't think it would be possible to assess using an application or a case study alone. What's really important if you're interested in applying is that you keep in mind that the assessors will be looking for evidence throughout the entire process. Successful candidates should become thoroughly familiar with the core competencies, and the core competencies are in the information package. So you want to familiarize yourself with the core competencies and take advantage of every opportunity available to demonstrate their performance according to the competencies and their related criteria. So why 2 levels of certification? Well, believe me, the task force discussed this upside down and sideways and backwards, and there was many, many hours put into how we would move ahead. We wanted to make the certification program accessible to as many members as possible. So that's why we came up with the 2 levels. The Certified Public Participation Professional category was created to cover the essential core competencies, meaning the entire suite of skills that we need to do good work in our profession. The master's level is for the most experienced and qualified professionals, and all of these skills and capabilities they have acquired over the years in business. So the certification process is designed to assess both levels of professionals side by side. The assessors will be looking at each candidate individually and assessing them using the 5 core competencies and all the related criteria. So this is a flowchart, and I'm sorry it's not probably as clear as it could be, but again, this is in the information package, and we just wanted to give you an overview of how the whole program sort of comes together. There will be 3 assessors on each assessment center. Assessors will work as a team as required. Assessors receive applications, review and score, and present to other assessors for verification. Assessors develop the case study. Assessors review the case study, score and consult with other assessors. Provide candidates with final instruction, and then assessors plan the assessment center. So
Brenda, if I can break in at this point, we do have a question which relates to the MCP3. Karen is asking if the master's level is a higher level than the CP3.
The master's level is indeed a higher level. We have, and I'll address this a little bit later, but you can see in the top black line across this diagram, the 5 core competencies are verified through 34 CP3 criteria, so everybody has to get those. Mm-hmm. And then to get your master's level, there is an additional 30 criteria.
And Karen just bounced a note back saying thank you.
Okay, good. So we do have prerequisites for the program, and the prerequisites are, one, of course, that you are a member in good standing, and two, that you have completed the Foundations program, so the previous certificate program, the 5-day training. So you've got to have those two prerequisites before you apply. And then you can just follow the flow chart through. So, well, you know, if you haven't got those prerequisites, then go and get your Foundations training and become a member. Then the professional experience and the work examples in the application and portfolio are the next step. So the application and portfolio, we screen applicants to ensure that they demonstrate the highest, you know, possible level to meet all of these core competencies. So then the next is our case study, and in our case study we're demonstrating knowledge and capabilities. The next step being the direct observation in the assessment center. So this is really a nice, I think, little diagram that gives you an idea of how we flow through the whole piece. So there are specific criteria that have been identified for each of the core competencies, and we have 15 criteria under the process design and application. We have 7 criteria under the event planning. We have 6 criteria under the use of tools and techniques, 8 criteria under the communication skills, and 1 criteria under the people skills. Some are defined only at the CP3 level and some only at the MCP3 level. To earn the MC, and this was another thing that we had extensive discussions on, was do I have to get all of the MCP3 criteria, all 30 of them, to get my master's designation? And just in respect of how different career paths take us into different areas, we decided that you need at least 80% of the MCP3 level to get the master's level, not 100%. So that was something that took a whole lot of discussion, both, you know, with the U.S. team and with our team here in Canada, to make sure that we were doing the best possible for our membership and for our profession. So here's an example, just a little screenshot for you of a core competency. So I'd like to talk through, an example of what we mean by core competencies and their associated criteria. So all of the core competencies are available, as I said, on our website, and I'm just wanted to illustrate a couple of examples here. So the first core competency in the P2 process, this is the core competency about all of the skills we need to go about planning a program to support the engagement of the public in a public decision-making process. So work with the sponsor to understand the decision to be made, the decision-making process, and what role the public might play in the decision-making process. Then you can see where is there evidence, where are the assessors going to get evidence of this core competency? Well, in the application and in the case study, we should be able to check off this skill. You can see that the master and the CP3 are the same. The candidate works with the sponsor to develop a full understanding of the decision to be made, decision-making process, and how the public input might improve the decision. Then we've got our pre-certification column, and that's for us to say, oh, like I don't have this competency and this is, what I'm missing. And give me sort of a little boost to say, okay, this is what I need to do to proceed so I can, maybe apply next year once I get a bit more experience. So if a candidate is unable to demonstrate the ability with a sponsor to clarify the decision to be made, the decision-making process, then the candidate is not ready for certification. So the quality standard, is not being met. So this document here, the core competencies, is really going to be your guide to look through it and see if you are indeed ready to move ahead. So the applicants will submit, a really detailed application and all of the sort of standard stuff you would expect, education, job history, other certifications, memberships. We're looking for a number of references. We have a very detailed matrix of P2 techniques to provide, the opportunity for you to let us know where you've got experience in this area. The application includes 3 to 5 project descriptions, and then there is a portfolio, so you can attach portfolio items. So let's just drill down on this application a little bit. So here's the chart that you'll be filling out for your P2 techniques. So what was your role on this project? So that would be, in terms of were you the lead, were you whatever, where you fit into the project. And then what was your role in the delivery of the technique? Was I the main facilitator? Did I co-facilitate? So letting us know that. And then at what level of the spectrum was this technique conducted? So that's a chart that's in your application. The project descriptions, each applicant, you've got the opportunity of submitting 3 to 5 project descriptions, and we've left that sort of a, not just 3, but up to 5 if you need to, because maybe you need 5 projects to cover off all of the core competencies. Maybe some of your projects will cover off, 20% of the competencies, and we need we chose to give you room to look at a number of different projects to make sure that you can prove that you meet all of the core competencies. So each project description will describe a prior P2 project and include, overall description of the program, what your role was, level of the spectrum and rationale, techniques chosen and rationale, description of how techniques were implemented, and then what you learned from that project. So this is a screenshot from your application. So here's, your project and all of the pieces that are going to go with it. What we did, you see the numbers at the end of the line here, describe the objectives of P2 process for this project and how they were defined. So that 1.2 is going to bring you back to the core competency, and you'll be able to look at the criteria and then be able to sort of in detail let us know how you match that, how you meet that core competency and criteria. And we've done that throughout the application, so you can tie yourself back directly to the core competencies.
So Brenda, we have another couple of questions here which are pretty relevant to what you've just been saying, so let me just read them off for you. Angie is asking, in the 3 to 5 project descriptions, can all of these be fairly similar, or will the assessors be looking for a variety or a wide scope of P2 experience?
They can indeed be similar, but keep in mind what your objective as an applicant here is to cover off all of the core competencies. So if project 1, 2, and 3 only let you complete 5 core competencies, then you haven't really met the objective of this part of the application. So it's really about, yes, like I was in the federal government for years. So if I was going to be doing my application to be using only a regulatory process, I might not have been able to show where I have all of the core competencies. So I might use one of my regulatory projects, I might use one of my policy projects, and then I, might look at something else in terms of, having developed a national strategy or something along that line.
But that being said, it's still possible for one to have demonstrated all the core competencies in projects that were in a certain field rather than a wide range.
Yes.
It's still possible. Okay.
Yes.
The other question comes from Robert, who wants to know if the projects need to be within a certain time frame of the application, like within the previous 12 months or something like that.
No, they don't. Someone like me might be going back 15 years. So, no, they don't have to be, recent.
Okay, fair enough. All right, Brenda,
Good.
you can pick up where you were. Thanks. Thank you for the questions. Remember, we got the question box there, and if you want to actually have us open your microphone and just ask the question directly, verbally, please raise that little yellow hand icon there, and we'll come to you as you do that.
Thanks, Drew. After the project descriptions in your application, we've added some additional questions to assist you as an applicant in expanding on your skills and experience. So here's, an example of some of the questions that we've sort of said, okay, we didn't see this in the project description, and here's another opportunity to meet some of these core competencies. Then you've got your portfolio. A portfolio is composed of work samples that document your prior work experience as it relates to the core competencies. So think carefully about the breadth of your experiences to date and the core competencies. You're welcome to submit up to 10 pieces that document your prior work. The application provides the opportunity to describe each item that you're going to submit. So I would, perhaps attach my consultation report. So, we did the consultations. Here's what was said, or what was said document. Or I might be attaching my information piece where I was in contaminated sites for years. So where we would go to a community and say, here is the details on the contaminants, at this site. And so different pieces like that will support us being able to identify that you have indeed met the core competencies and the criteria.
Okay, a couple more questions to come up here, Brenda, if I can break in again, because, and these are, ones that are coming in relevant to what you've been saying. Patrick notes that many of the sponsors and references have moved on. Will the lack of such count against us, count against those who have more than 10 years experience?
Well, we've got to find evidence to be able to score the core competencies. So yes, indeed, we know that people move on, but then you're going to have to find, where can me as an assessor say, okay, yes, I can click this off. So there's definitely a lot of work to pulling this together, but as assessors, we've got to be able to say, yes, I've got evidence.
And it looks to me like you're fairly flexible about how that evidence is gathered?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, indeed. Where really this is about improving our profession, and this is about professional certification. We want people to succeed.
Mm-hmm.
We want to build our profession, and we want to give you every opportunity to prove to us that you meet the core competencies and criteria.
Right. And Robert is asking if the portfolio items need to come from the 3 to 5 projects that were submitted.
No, they can be in addition to.
Great. All right, Brenda, back to you.
Okay, so there's all the scoop on your portfolio, and I don't have to sort of go through it. You can have a look, but again, we've put in the numbers so you can see what is it that what core competency am I matching up to here. So if we look at down on the page 1.3, conduct a situation assessment. So that is going to go right back to the 1.3 core competency. So then the case study is next. So you've done your application, we've had our assessors look at your application, and we say, yep, you are good to go. You can move on to the next stage. And that next stage will be a case study. So application is good. We've invited you to the assessment center, and we will provide you with a case study. The opportunity is given to you to meet with a project sponsor who will answer all questions about the project. So we've set things up that we can, work through a role play, if you will. And that meeting with the project sponsor, we would suggest that you would approach it as your startup meeting with a client. So based on the information provided in the written case study and the meeting with the project sponsor, candidates will prepare responses to the case study, submit their prepared responses for evaluation by assessors, and then receive feedback from the assessors. and hopefully at that point you will be then invited to attend an upcoming assessment center. Let me just check. So the candidates who are invited to the assessment center, in your case study, you're asked to prepare a very detailed P2 plan for that scenario presented in the case study. The same case study is given to all candidates going to the same assessment center. And each candidate will be assigned an assessor, and that assessor is there to help you or coach you if need be. So you have that opportunity of talking to an assessor as well as that, role play with the decision maker. We would suggest that candidates, treat that opportunity, like don't miss the opportunity to do the role play, because you're going to find out a whole bunch more information about the project, and so you can make assumptions, but it's better to know exactly where we're all going. About 10 days before the assessment center, each candidate will receive feedback on their case study and then specific directions on what they will present at the actual assessment center. So your work at the assessment center will be based on this case study. So we're at the assessment center now, and we start the assessment center on the, I think that the dates we have planned in November, it will be Saturday evening. So Saturday evening you'll have a 30-minute private interview with an assessor. So what we're looking at there in the interview is, if there's just pieces that I still, as an assessor, am not clear on, it gives you another opportunity to sort of elaborate on different bits and pieces that maybe wasn't clear in the case study, or something I feel that I, just really want to have a one-on-one private conversation with you about to further effectively evaluate your core competencies. So then on the Sunday, we'll have a 20-minute presentation by each candidate, followed by a Q&A. Then the candidates are all divided into teams, and teams of 3, depending on how many people we have at the assessment center. We will never take more than 12 in an assessment center, but we certainly can do it with a little bit less. We'll have to see how our numbers come in. So in your team, you're presented with a P2 challenge, and then you go off with your team, and you have about an hour to work as a team to prepare a response. You're preparing back to the group a 20-minute presentation, again followed by a Q&A. And then at the end of the day, there'll be a 15-minute private interview with the entire panel of assessors. Candidates will be provided with their initial assessment results during that final interview, and then within the next couple of weeks we'll have a much more detailed feedback report for you. We also ask that people will sign a pledge, and that pledge, we haven't got our final version here in Canada, but basically the pledge is about, saying that you will practice in accordance with IAP2 Code of Ethics and core values. So that's something else that we're asking people to do once they've been successful. So what is this going to cost you? Well, let me explain the fees a little bit. There are indeed 2 separate fees: your application fee and your assessment fee. The application fee is $250, which is non-refundable, and will be due upon submission of your application. The assessment fee is $2,250, which again is non-refundable, and we'll be invoicing that upon invitation to attend the assessment center, and that that will be due before the assessment center, and lots of opportunities to different ways that you can pay that. So here is our schedule for the Canadian Assessment Centre. So we opened applications a couple of weeks ago. Our application deadline is the 4th of August. We will be reviewing applications in the first couple of weeks of August, and candidates will be notified on the 22nd of August if they can indeed move ahead. At that point, you'll receive the case study. Excuse me. The case study responses will be due the 20th of September. We will review all of the case studies and then provide candidates with final instructions on the 12th of October. And then the assessment center will be the 19th and 20th of November. And you will receive your feedback from the assessment center, by the end of November. But you will know when you leave the assessment center if you have been successful or not. Any more questions, Drew?
Sorry, it took me a second to unmute. Yeah, question from Kristen, actually. What if you fail?
What if you fail? Well, in terms of what we, of course, are very geared to you being successful. But if you fail, you will have feedback from your assessor to look at, what why have you failed? Of course, that all happens right away in the assessment center. And we will be giving you feedback as to how you can improve and then come back for another run at a later date.
And I guess the follow-up question to that is, do you have to pay again for the assessment fee to take another run at it?
Drew, I'm not sure we've worked all of those final details out. Certainly the application fee is a one-time thing. We won't have to redo that. And I don't know exactly how we're going to sort through folks coming back for a second assessment center. And I'm sorry, I should have had that information, but I'm not sure that we've completely resolved exactly what that would cost. It wouldn't be the full amount for sure, but I don't know exactly how much it would be.
So what we'll do is we'll get that answer. We'll make sure that's posted on the certification page on the IAP2 Canada website. More questions. Yeah. Robert wants to know, how will the evaluation occur with the group work?
The three assessors will be involved in watching people in their group work, and each of the assessors will, we sort of rotate through the small group activities, and so people sort of get a different sense, that different assessors get a different sense of how people are functioning in small group.
Okay. Angie wants to know, how frequently do you expect to have the assessments taking place? If somebody can't apply for it the first time, have you determined when there'll be another assessment, or how frequent it will be?
One of the things that we're considering is that we will look at, after this original pilot, that we will look at keeping applications open. So then it's like, oh, as soon as we have enough people to run a center, we will. So if, we have 8 applications come in, then it'll be like, okay, great, we're good to go. So we're looking at that option. And then the other option would be probably having at least 2 assessment centers a year.
Okay. Leslie asking, when will we know where the assessment center will be? We know it's going to be November 19th and 20th. Will the assessment center be in Toronto?
What we're looking at right now was we wanted to accommodate membership as best we could in terms of where folks are coming from. So if we find that we have 10 applicants and the majority of them are in Western Canada, then we, just for financial economies of scale, we would have that center in Calgary. If we find, that the majority of the folks are from Ontario, then, you know, we'd be in Toronto. So that's what we're trying. That's what our goal is, to try and sort of set things up so folks will have the least expensive, you know, travel time to get to the center.
So basically it'll be determined on where the majority of applicants are located.
Yeah, so, you know, by August 4th, when applications are closed, we can say, oh yeah, this is definitely a Western Canada
There you go.
center, or, yeah.
Okay. Sarah wants to know, if CP3 and MCP3 submit the same application, do you need to identify when you submit whether you're going for CP3 or MCP3?
No. No, it's for the assessors to be able to identify where those criteria are met.
Okay. Following up on Leslie's question, Tracy is asking, Canada is a large place. Chances are that some will have to travel. So if this travel is a barrier, can one put the application on hold until such time as there may be a closer assessment center?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Yes, indeed.
And Leslie just followed up her remark too, saying she's from Nova Scotia. So, and if the center is on the West Coast, it'll be a cost issue for her to travel.
Yeah, yeah, for sure.
And Patrick wants to know if the association, IAP2, will promote those who have been certified on the national site.
We are talking about that. But I think that is, you know, that's definitely something that has been raised by the task force, that would be something we would really like to see, is to have that available for people who are looking for our certified professionals, that there will be a place on the website.
I think that's a note to take too when we go through the website redesign that's currently underway. It's a way of making sure we got that database in there.
Yeah.
I agree with the comment that this presentation was very well done, which was a remark I was going to bring up from Robert for later on, so now Emma is agreeing with it. And she wants to know if the application and assessments will be done at about the same time each year.
Well, we really haven't decided. We're here in the summer, and we think maybe the summer is not the best time to be having, you know, drawing on folks to put in a lot of extra time. So I don't have an answer for that.
Okay.
I don't know when the next ones will be.
And as you said before, it seems to be when you build up a certain number of applicants, then you'll decide that there'll be an assessment center. Yeah,
that's an option that we're looking at.
And once again, and Emma says thank you for the answer to that one. We had another question about where the assessment will be located. Once again, that's going to depend on where the majority of the applicants are from as of when things close on August the 4th, correct, Brenda?
Correct.
Is it the 4th the applications close?
August 4th.
August 4th, okay.
So you have just a little over 2 weeks to get your application in. And you know, when you look at it, you're going to see that it's very time consuming. It's a time consuming piece of work. You need to put a lot of thought into it, and schedule yourself a number of hours. This might be a couple of days work for you by the time, you know, you flush out all of your project descriptions and look at your portfolio pieces and all of that. So the application is labor intensive for sure. I don't want to kid you on that one for sure.
Mm-hmm. And Robert is asking, based on the discussion around flexibility of dates, does this mean I can submit an application after the August 4th date?
Not for this schedule, because this is a pilot, so this is a little bit more restricted schedule. But because we've got to have your application in by August 4th for the November assessment center. If you're, you know, not working towards the November assessment center, then absolutely we can accept your application anytime.
All right. Are there any further questions out there? And I just have to do a quick check and see if anybody's got their hand up. No. No. We don't have anybody with their hand up. Any other questions coming in the box? No. So is there anything further from you, Brenda, that we need to cover?
I just want to thank everybody for joining us. It's great to see so many people interested in the certification program. I think it's going to be a wonderful thing for our profession. I think it's you know, very timely that we move ahead. We all know that in our work we have people who don't necessarily value just how much knowledge, skills, and abilities we are bringing to the job. And I think this is going to be a great thing for us and for our profession. So I encourage you all to apply. We certainly are here to support you. Any questions that you have, you can send an email to info@IAP2 Canada, and we will, you know, support you as best we can in doing your applications, and any other questions you might have, we're here to help.
All right, and that of course is iap2canada.ca. Just make sure you got the right email address there. Brenda, as we wrap this up, we've got a couple of people just giving you a good old pat on the back for doing a great job on this one. Thank you for putting this together and explaining things as you have.
Thank you so much, and hope to see people at the assessment center. I'll be one of the assessors.
And just to respond to another question, we had 18 people on the call here, so that's a good turnout for this. Brenda, you and the assessors
Awesome.
may be just a little bit busy this fall.
That's right, exactly. Thank you so much.
Thank you all for taking part. This is being recorded, and presently you'll be able to access the recording of this webinar on the website in the page marked IAP2 Canada Professional Certification Program. Thank you once again for coming up. Brenda, thank you for your presentation, and we look forward to talking to you all again soon. Bye-bye now.
Bye-bye.